everybody, today I'm going to be continuing in my how to apply series, and this one is going to be how to apply bronzer, and the last one I did is how to apply eyeshadow for beginners, so make sure you guys check that one out as well. I'll link it down in the description box. Today I wanted to share about how to apply bronzer and my best tips in doing so. Bronzer is a tough one because bronzers aren't always the best color choices for us, the right texture, so you really want to assess your skin first and figure out what type of bronzer is best for you. There are matte bronzers, there are shimmer bronzers, there are cream bronzers. So for me personally, as an example, I have dry skin, so I like the look of more of a satin finish. I like one that gives a little bit of a glow to my skin, or else I look a little bit dry, a little bit dead. For me, I know I like powders, but I need one that's like a little bit livelier and has a little bit of a radiance to it. Figuring out the texture first, assessing your skin, determining that is one factor. Another factor is the tone, which I think is probably the biggest thing when it comes to bronzer. You want to figure out the tone that works for you. A lot of the time we want to look at our undertones and figure out whether we're more warm or cool toned. So if you're more warm tone, you're gonna have more golden to you, and that's what I am. I have more of a golden hue to my skin tone, so I'm gonna pick more of a warm tone bronzer to complement that, because if you don't, it can clash and things can get a little kind of ashy if you notice that, or just tends to pull a little bit of a gray. Not really fun to have that gray line on the side of your face. Lots of Facebook profile pictures with that. So figuring out the texture, that what you want, with the look you want that sits well on your skin and that your skin agrees with. Then the second thing is figuring out your undertone and then choosing that undertone in your bronzer. So again, for me, I'm dry, so I like a more satin finish powder, and I like it to have a little bit of a glow to it. And I am more warm tone with golden hue, so I'm gonna choose a bronzer with a warm tone and a golden hue that's 2 to 3 shades deeper than my skin tone. So the bronzer that I'm loving personally for me is the MAC Give Me Sun Mineralized Skin Finish Natural. So it has that really nice golden undertone. It's a few shades deeper than my skin tone, and it has that really beautiful radiant finish. I was using Benefit's Hoola for a really long time, but that was a little too cool tone for me. I was noticing that it was clashing with my skin tone a little bit. I was using it as I would apply to the majority of my face, and I noticed I look a little too cool tone. So it just didn't match with my skin tone well. And I know that works for a lot of people, but I think it works a lot more for people who have a little bit more of a cool undertone. But I find that bronzers like this really help my skin tone. Use that as a guideline, maybe find out what works for you and what bronzers might be your favorite. So next I wanna talk about brushes, and I'm really just gonna talk about one style right now. I got this one from TJ Maxx for $3, and I can't believe it. I spent way too much money on bronzing brushes, especially ones that are really big and fluffy. After doing makeup and being a makeup artist for as long as I have, I noticed I like fluffier brushes for bronzer. For contouring, I like smaller brushes because you get more control, but I think the fluffier the brush, and this one's nice and long and then has like a tapered fluffy tip to it, which really just deposits bronzer really softly, really airbrush. You don't want your bronzer to look patchy and too concentrated in certain areas. The fluffier the brush you have, without being too big where you have no control at all, but I think about a medium size fluffy brush that has some give to it is a really great way to apply beautiful looking bronzer. So now for the actual application part, I always recommend to dip your brush, make sure it's nice and evenly dipped in, tap off the excess because you never know if there's a lot of fallout with that bronzer and you just want to be able to have the control here. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and place it based on my face shape. So for me, I have a longer face, so I'm not trying to like sculpt my cheeks out too much to make my face even longer, even more gaunt. I want to really flatter my face shape. So I highly recommend assessing your face shape and placing your bronzer based on that. So my next tip is to also hold the back of the brush so that you're not putting too much product in one area and being too harsh with it. Try holding the back of the brush when you're applying your bronzer. So I'm going to start in the hairline, and I'm going to focus it around here and just do circular motions really close to the hairline, and I'm going to put most of the product there and then bring it a little bit down so that you're just starting to have more sun naturally hits here and it kind of just fades down anyway. So you want to mimic the look of a natural tan. So I'm just starting it here, blending it downward, And the more bronzer you pull down, the more it's going to make that area smaller. So really just play around with what you like. For me, I like to have most of my product near the hairline and within here. I don't go too much in here because that's gonna really, again, pull me back a little bit, and I don't want to, because I have a longer face. I'm just trying to shadow just a little bit more in the central area. But what I recommend to my clients is generally following a 3 shape. So you're focusing it here, down the slope of the cheek, and then the jawline. That's the general area, but then figure out where to pull back and add more based on your face shape. So again, for me, I focus on this central area here. I put just a tiny bit on the hairline just so for continuity purposes and it just doesn't look bare. And then I like to take it at the top of the ear, and since it's really fluffy, it doesn't allow me to put too much product. So I'm not gonna go all the way in. I'm just gonna focus more so back here, because again, I have a longer face, but if you have a rounder face and you want to pull in more, go more towards your ear. I'll do the same thing on the other side. I use the top of my ear as a reference, doing circular motions, holding the back of the brush. You can see I'm just starting to warm up the skin without even using a ton of product all over the place, because you want to have dimension and shape to your face. We're trying to flatter that. I even go up on the ear a little bit just to make it look the most natural. Put a tiny bit on the tip of the nose because I don't want to avoid that. I'm also not contouring. I'm just doing a slight bit right in here. Then your jawline, you can really shadow and make it like really a lot slimmer looking depending on where you place it. I'm just gonna take a little bit right under here. Nothing crazy. I don't usually do too much down here, but I just want it to look all even. Take a little bit more on my nose. I just love this shade so much because it gives me a really nice radiance to my skin. It bronzes me up. It's so finely milled, this powder, so I can never go too heavy either. So as you can see, I really just placed it around my hairline, down the slope of my cheek without going too far in. I just pulled it back right in here. I used to pull it in here and I just looked kind of dirty and a little bit too, I just accentuated too much. There is a point of going too far. So I like it pulled back a little bit, and then I go in with my blush in here and my highlight. Play around with where you place it on your face shape, and it can really make a big difference. So those are my top tips on how to apply bronzer. I love bronzer. Thank you guys always for being here. I hope you enjoy these how to apply videos, because I think I'm gonna keep doing them if you guys are. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.